And we welcome you to this edition of Night Shift. I'm Eric Lopez alongside Bryson Turner. UCF, there you see it, victorious over the Florida Gators at the Gasparilla Bowl, 29-17. Bryson, how you doing?
Ho, 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 Eric. Santa has brought us an early Christmas present this year. I'm very it certainly was a really good game. It was a really close game for about 2 2/3 quarters, but honestly, like, this game is definitely going to be a tale of two halves, I think, in terms of this program. Very close, I would say, in half number one, but late third quarter, once the UCF offense really got rolling with Bowser, O'Keefe, and Richardson, I think that really made the difference, I think.
Of course, you could interact with us. Send us your comments and questions. Of course, we are on Facebook. We are on live there. We're on live on Twitter. We're live on YouTube. And, of course, some of you are also listening on our podcast feed. We're everywhere, folks. blackandgoldbanneret.com is the place to be. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. We'll get live shows like this. Bryson, where can they find us on Twitter?
You can find me at it's Bryson Turner on Twitter. If you can find the Banneret at UCF Banneret _SBN, and you can see Eric Lopez's Twitter handle on the bottom of the screen. I'll probably add mine in just a second. I'm just doing some social media coverage where you can also submit some questions for us under the tweets that Eric and I are both sending out.
Of course, an incredible night. UCF victorious over Florida, 29-17. Gus Malzahn becomes the first ever UCF head football coach to win his first bowl game as Knights head coach in UCF as a head coach of the Knights. George O'Leary lost in the Hawaii Bowl in his first bowl game as a UCF head coach. Scott Frost lost in his first bowl game against Arkansas State in the Cure Bowl. And, of course, Josh Heupel lost his first bowl game as UCF head coach in the Fiesta Bowl against LSU. Kind of a back-and-forth game as you look at the numbers. UCF dominating the second half, outscoring Florida 20-7 in a game that really, you look at the first half, was kind of back and forth. You know, I was on the beat of sports today on 96.9 in Orlando with Mike Tuck, who was filling in for Mark Daniels, who's obviously in Tampa with UCF. And I said, Bryson, this game would come down to the trenches. I think Florida kind of had control of the trenches in the first half, but UCF definitely took control in the second half. 288 yards rushing for UCF in this football game. Isaiah Bowser, what a difference maker. 35 carries, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Ryan O'Keefe, a legendary game that will be remembered by Knight fans everywhere. Ryan O'Keefe, 4 carries, 110 yards, and, of course, 7 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown, including that 54-yard touchdown and that memorable photo you may have already seen on social media, shot by our own Noah Goldberg and others with the number 2 peace sign in honor of Otis Anderson. And Bryson, sometimes sports can be fun, man, and it could mean a lot to people. UCF was playing for more than just bragging rights. They were playing more than playing Florida. That was a moment that I will never forget. Ryan O'Keefe scoring, putting up the 2 peace sign in honor of Otis Anderson. These guys were playing for Otis, and it tells you a lot about the brotherhood that football players have for each other, especially at a program like UCF. That's, to me, my biggest takeaway that I'll always remember from this night.
Yeah, I would agree with you right there. I think also the fact that UCF has finally beaten Florida for the first time. I know they've only played each other twice in each of their programs' history, but it's just nice to get that monkey off the back, even if it is in a bowl game. But yes, I mean, playing for Otis, I think, is what a lot of people had on their minds going into this game, and that was a brilliant tribute by Ryan O'Keefe, flashing the deuces going into the end zone. And, you know, as one of the players who had a major impact on offense in this game, and honestly had a similar role to Otis, who both a major runner and major passer, I think he was the perfect player to make that tribute, and what a perfect time to do it as well. So I would honestly say that this factors into what I think the biggest thing about this game is. If you had to really boil this game down to one thing, it would be the word catharsis. This game was a catharsis for a program that has been through heck this year with injuries to players and coaches alike, and a season where we lost Dylan Gabriel, and Mikey Keene had to be pushed into service and did fairly well for the position that he was in. And then it's catharsis after where the UCF family was hurting with the death of Otis Anderson, just a really great tribute to him, and a catharsis that we beat Florida. I mean, again, I know people will talk about asterisks like, oh, it's in a bowl game. Oh, it's an interim head coach. And that's all true. I will agree with that. But for tonight, at least for this game, the catharsis is there because you can factually say UCF beat the Florida Gators in football. And it feels very, very nice to say, let me tell you.
Well, full disclosure, everybody, Bryson, of course, is a UCF student. Your family are Florida graduates. You actually all watched the game together. How'd that go?
It was nice. We had a whole thing. I was tweeting from the Banneret account, so I was actually in the loft with my grandparents, who are also Gators fans. My mom's parents are Gators fans, and so I was watching the game with them a lot in the loft where I could hear, because there was a lot of people in there, so I had to listen to the game, and so I can tweet properly and stuff. But I had I had some family come and family friends come, and those family friends were some UCF fans, so I was not alone in my support for UCF in my house. Don't you worry about that.
Are you guys gonna be okay now moving forward here? Are you gonna get along? Because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of trash talking from both sides between now and the fall of 2024 when these two programs are scheduled to play in Gainesville, Florida. And don't mistake yourself. This game will add some juice to that game. There'll be some back and forth on that one. And what an atmosphere. Sir Epic writing in saying the environment was incredible. It really was, wasn't it, on TV? We're hoping, working on seeing if we get some reactions from the people. Just talking to people at the game, it was electric atmosphere, as you would expect. A sellout crowd, 65,000. A lot of UCF fans obviously making the trip. Florida fans making the trip as well. It was an exciting environment. It was an emotional environment. As you know, Terry Mohajir, the athletic director for UCF, he was on with Mike Bianchi and Mark Daniels this week on 96.9, and he said it best. When you have a regional matchup, a regional rivalry like this, people are interested. That's never going to change in college football, even with realignment. And you see that here. And I think for UCF, it's a significant win from that standpoint. You beat Florida, first win ever against them. I think there's a lot of alums, a lot of former players that are very excited about that. And, I think UCF, we'll see what happens moving forward. But I think UCF will be shooting to, and Terry kind of alluded to this, they're hoping to play the Miamis and the Florida States, et cetera. But it certainly, I think this will go down arguably as the third most memorable bowl win in the history of this program, other than right there with the Baylor win, obviously the Fiesta Bowl, and then obviously the Peach Bowl against Auburn are the top two there, with the Peach Bowl probably number one and the Fiesta number two. I would argue this is number three because of the opponent, right? Would you agree with that, Bryson? The opponent and, the environment. And obviously, that again, I cannot get that. I will always remember that image of O'Keefe scoring with the two peace sign there. That's a special one. That's a very special one that UCF fans will remember for a while, and nobody's going to take that away from them. They're going to this is an enjoyable one to enjoy for a while.
Oh, yes. The atmosphere was certainly great. The final attendance numbers came in at 63,669 people, which is a Gasparilla Bowl record. So I have no problem not believing that the atmosphere in that stadium was absolutely electric for a lot of this game, though I did hear reports that some Florida fans started leaving about midway through the fourth
That's not
quarter.
a surprise. That's not a surprise at all there. Sir Epic, O'Keefe touchdown is the best moment of the night. Not only do I think it's the best moment of the night, I think it's the best moment of the season. Let me ask you, Bryce, is there a better moment this season for UCF football than that moment with O'Keefe's touchdown?
As a single moment goes,
yeah.
I don't think so. When you really factor in all the storylines coming in, I think that is certainly the moment of the season, because I think it was a moment of catharsis on so many levels. If you really this game is full of catharsis. But if you want to boil it down to one moment, then that play with Ryan O'Keefe flashing the deuce, that moment is full of catharsis, not only for Otis Anderson, but also for this season where this team has gone through so much. And Ryan O'Keefe being one of the big bright spots that has managed to get this team through a very difficult season. I certainly would agree with you. I'm also, Eric Edwards has commented this, and I've been getting some word from Twitter. At Nick Geddes News, who is at the game, posted a video about Gus Malzahn's message to Night Nation, which is at the trophy ceremony, and Ryan O'Keefe is standing next to him, and so that tracks with Eric Edwards' comment, which is Ryan O'Keefe is the MVP for this season. I thought you were talking about the game, but Ryan O'Keefe is standing on stage with Gus Malzahn.
Yeah, he's the bowl game. Should be the bowl game MVP. That's a no-brainer.
I would say that I would say that O'Keefe is the bowl game MVP, and it's rightly deserved. I think it was rightly deserved. The only player I would argue that maybe that also deserves the MVP, that could have also won, is Isaiah Bowser, because I have said this, but I've said this before. And that is, I think Isaiah Bowser's presence is a major precedent for how well this team is going to do. His role as the bruiser back is just so crucial to how this team operates that without him, we've just been scraping by. When Bowser is there,
he's a difference maker. You can see the difference in the running game.
He's able to establish the run. Ryan O'Keefe and Johnny Richardson can play speedy all the live long day. But the problem is that without Bowser, the UCF cannot properly establish the run, which means Mikey Keene is forced to play hero. And he's a true freshman. You really shouldn't be asking a true freshman to play the hero. You shouldn't have to ask that of him. And Mikey Keene, I think, and it felt like we were going in that direction for the first quarter or so. I mean, Bowser seemed like he was kind of getting back into the motions of things during the first half or so. And so we saw that trapping where Mikey Keene was really forced to kind of play hero a little bit and not the game manager that he's really best suited as. So
but O'Keefe is the MVP. I mean, when they couldn't get things going offensively, O'Keefe was making play, especially all game long. Bowser got going more in the second half, but O'Keefe did it all with the running, his legs, the running game, the passing game. It was, to me, it's one of the most memorable performances any UCF players had in a bowl game. It's up there with Brandon Marshall in the Hawaii Bowl. It's up there with, Shaquem Griffin in the Peach Bowl against Auburn. It's up there. It's a top three. Oni Kuno, my boy Sean, diehard Sooner fan, chiming in. This Florida team played their last game 358 days ago. This Florida team played their last game 369 days ago. He's making fun of Florida. Florida last year, remember Dan Mullen kind of scoffed at they got blown out by Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. And they said, we didn't have our players. This game didn't mean anything. They basically treated it like a practice. They made excuses for it. Are they going to make excuses? I don't know I would like to think the Florida staff won't make excuses there. Will fans do? Yeah, they will. Who cares? They got bigger problems personally.
Wasn't the word that the Florida boosters were lobbying against this?
Maybe, but let's turn our attention to a guy that covers both teams very well. Live from the stadium. Let's bring him in here if we can, if technology will allow us. Mark Moses, the radio host. Let's see if he's going to bring him in. He's outside somewhere. He was at the Raymond James. And right now, Mark's connection's not very good, which is always technology. Right, Bryson? It's always technology a fight.
Oh, yes, it is. We have had our run-ins with technology this season, so it is what it is. Hopefully he finds a good Wi-Fi, a good spot.
So what happens when you have a packed house in that stadium? They're not used to having a lot of people there for a college football game, so they don't have to worry about internet and Wi-Fi and connections usually.
UCF fans are used to it though, because I'm pretty sure a lot of UCF students watching will really sympathize. The bounce house is where Wi-Fi goes to die.
I agree. So we'll see if we can make that work. Other comments chiming in there. Yeah, look, Ryan O'Keefe has been one of the highlights of 2021. To Eric Edwards' point, he's been the highlight of this season. With all the injuries offensively, and that especially in the receiving game, Jalen Robinson didn't play as once again, and all that. So,
and there it is. UCF football at UCF football just tweeted the star of stars, 251 all-purpose yards, 110 rushing yards, 85 receiving yards. Ryan O'Keefe is the Gasparilla Bowl MVP.
Well deserved, and one of the most memorable moments in the history of UCF football. Bowl game performance. I don't want to compare it to regular season games, but it'll be up there. It's up there. I think it's top 3 bowl game ever. Again, Marshall going against in that Hawaii Bowl, Griffin, Peach Bowl. Those are the 2 that kind of stands out. Obviously, Blake Bortles. Let's not forget him in the Fiesta Bowl. If you include a regular season, I think of Kevin Smith against Tulsa in the 2007 championship game. Obviously, there's a lot of McKenzie Milton games you could pick from, but this game is going to be memorable for many, many reasons. As I go over the stats, kind of an interesting deal here. Emory Jones, 14 of 36, 171 yards. He ran for 62. But remember, I thought UCF did a nice job running the football or containing him as far as a dual threat. Remember, Bryson, how Malik Cunningham just ran all over UCF, and there was that couple of drives where, Emory ran very well. But I thought UCF defensively, and you've seen the growth of this defense as the year has gone on under Travis Williams, good containment on Emory Jones. And they basically said, I dare you to beat us with your arm, Emory, and Emory couldn't do it.
Yeah. I was getting some Malik Cunningham flashbacks.
You were? There you go.
Some of this game when Emory Jones was going on through those runs. But I will say that through the course of the game, and that's, I think, comes with the fact that Travis Williams has done an excellent job with this defense, or maybe it's just a testament to Emory to the fact that Malik Cunningham is a better mobile quarterback than Emory Jones. Who knows? Who's to say? But I think the fact that Emory Jones was able to get contained, or just didn't run the ball as much as he probably could have in this game, and so regardless of what it is, the fact that Emory Jones did not get the ball, take off running as much, whether it's because of the defense or because of his own ability, that ended up playing a factor here, because UCF has had issues with dual quarterbacks with Malik Cunningham, but the improvement has been shown, and that's a credit to Travis Williams. I mean, he's done an excellent job with this program, and I really wish that we had an Our Time episode for this bowl, because I would love to be a fly on the wall to see this team react to this, and this coaching staff, because seeing Travis Williams on there, the type of guy that he is, I mean, I could totally believe that he'd be able to whip this defense into shape and be able to allow them to go up against a dual threat quarterback like Emory Jones in the time between the Louisville game and this one.
I have a feeling Nightflix will take care of all your, positive deal there. Let's bring in a guy. Let's bring in a guy here, Bryson. And by the way, I'm going to move you for now because I'm going to make room for the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend, host of Sons of UCF Live. It's on most Thursday nights, the most must-watch Thursday night primetime show since Seinfeld, 8 o'clock, usually on Thursday nights, unless there's a UCF conflict like there was. So then they push it at night. My good friend, Trace Tryko, host of Sons UCF Live. There you go. You're supporting. Welcome. That was a fun one.
It was a fun one, and I'm glad to support your work on Night Shift. You guys do a great job with the post-game shows.
Let's give me your thoughts here. You're an alum. You've been, a long time. You've been at many, many games. They beat the Florida Gators. That's, say what you will, bowl games. I know there's going to be a lot of what does it mean in the big picture, but just for the moment, to beat Florida, that's a pretty good night, and especially with the environment, Ryan O'Keefe, and everything behind that. Pretty special night.
Very special night. I was at those 2 previous matchups between the Gators and the Knights, both losses, as was well documented during the broadcast on ESPN tonight, and it is very sweet. No one will remember that it's a bowl game, that it's a meaningless exhibition. It really was a special night. saw Ryan O'Keefe and that moment where he honors and recognizes the late Otis Anderson with the peace sign as he crosses the end zone. Gave me chills, got tears in my eyes. And then to see UCF stick to Gus Malzahn's plan in the second half and run Isaiah Bowser and the great Ryan O'Keefe plays. This is a very sweet night for Night Nation. And as Coach Malzahn has said, just another piece in building the program, and a big step it was tonight, especially in the recruiting front.
As you were watching the game, what stood out to you as you watched this game? I mean, the first half was tough to watch. Offense, a slow start. Mikey Keene obviously had his tough problems there. They didn't run the ball as much. Obviously, they went for two after the first touchdown, which was kind of shaky there. But man, second half, they kind of figured some things out. They ran all over Florida. What was your what stood out to you as the difference in the game there? What changed for UCF?
Well, I was sharing with you, I wanted to see more of Isaiah Bowser. I thought you hit it on the head, that maybe just being off for several weeks, he wasn't quite himself, getting into a rhythm. We've talked about this, the difference with him in the game and with him not in the game really opens up things for Johnny Richardson. And as you saw, the speed that we saw with Ryan O'Keefe and the way he was utilized. But that Isaiah Bowser is a difference maker. And, we've been talking about, and we mentioned it on the Sons of UCF live show. We went on a special night Wednesday because of the bowl game on Thursday, saying, would the bowl game be a showcase for players such as Emory Jones, who are talking about entering or the transfer portal? I wonder if a game like this, a performance like this, is a swaying decision for Isaiah Bowser now as he considers possibly going and throwing his hat into the ring in the NFL draft, or did he have enough volume of work over this 2021 season? Does he feel like he needs to come back and showcase more? But when he was in games and healthy, he certainly was a different, and you can tell that's the type of running back Gus Malzahn wants in his offense, just a bruiser, just a bowling ball, knocking guys over.
We got a tweet from our old friend Trace, Brian Murphy at Spokes Murphy. Remember him? He used to cover UCF once upon a time. He tweeted about Gus's comments at ESPN afterwards to Taylor Davis, the sideline reporter, saying, "We've got big dreams. We got big goals. We can win the whole thing here. I think tonight was just a first step, and recruiting. I think recruiting is going to go really good now," he says with a big smirk on there. This is, by the way, I mentioned this at the Open. Gus is the first UCF football head coach to win his first bowl game as UCF head coach. George O'Leary lost in the Hawaii Bowl. You had, Scott Frost losing in the Cure Bowl in his first game. You have Josh Heupel losing the first game. I know it's just a bowl game. It doesn't carry. But this is big for Gus. This is a big momentum for him. And a lot of fans now are going to be pretty excited here moving forward with recruiting, the move to the Big 12. This will definitely get people excited for 2022. Whereas if they lose this game, I think there's more questions than answers.
Yeah, a lot more questions, and we will go into spring camp with some questions. I don't know what you were talking about. I was listening to the post game on the radio and the trophy presentation, but I don't know that we got all of the answers that we needed about Mikey Keene and possible quarterback battles. We're going to savor this one. We're going to enjoy it for the rest of 2021 before we begin to, as fans, fret over 2022. So, but from a recruiting standpoint, you saw how the Knights finished, 42nd overall, highest rated recruiting class, 14 high school kids, one junior college transfer. But now that advantage that Florida State, Miami had, that Power Five, that's getting knocked down. No matter how it shakes out with what the new Big 12 looks like, Florida won't be able to go into living rooms and say, well, at UCF, you're only playing for an American Athletic Conference championship. They won't have that advantage. And, just go back a couple of years. You mentioned Josh Heupel in his Fiesta Bowl loss. It was Josh Heupel, right, that got a Gasparilla Bowl win. Boy, matchups do matter in bowl games, don't they? And the Gasparilla Bowl, folks, perhaps better than maybe any bowl game, and there certainly are a lot of them in the country, pick the right matchup, maybe a 50-50 balance in that stadium. It wasn't the best game you're ever going to see, but there was energy throughout. And UCF's social media team is going to spin this for all it's worth. And I saw on social media, especially as the game was ending at the conclusion, all of those new Knights, some of which come to campus in just a couple of weeks for a January enrollment, are chirping about the big win and the future of college football and that UCF owns the state. So I think beyond the bragging rights and the talk, that will chirp and go back and forth. This made a big difference down the line for Gus Malzahn on the recruiting front.
Ryan O'Keefe, I said this earlier. I think it's a top 3 UCF bowl game performance of all time. Brandon Marshall against Hawaii, against Nevada in the Hawaii Bowl jumps to mind. Obviously, Shaquem Griffin in the Peach Bowl against Auburn was incredible in that game. Blake Bortles in the Fiesta Bowl. I think this game is right. That performance for Ryan O'Keefe is one that's going to be remembered forever. This will be the Ryan O'Keefe Bowl game that will be remembered, right? I mean, I think that's – I understand certain bowl games, the New Year's Six, are bigger, so that will certainly add to that. But this was an incredible game for Ryan O'Keefe. What's your thoughts on it? Somebody who's been to a lot of those great performances by a lot of great UCF players.
He's a talent, right? And we've seen how he's utilized his speed throughout this season. MVP in this Gasparilla Bowl, but I think, and I get chills just thinking about it now, I get a little emotional as he crossed that goal line and flashed up the deuces for Otis Anderson. Trillian Coles carrying his jersey, Otis Anderson's jersey, number 2, around the stadium. I think that is an indelible, iconic moment in UCF football history, the way Ryan recognized Otis Anderson tonight, and his performance was lights out. And he's the sort of piece that makes your offense just a whole lot better. So Isaiah Bowser and Ryan O'Keefe made up for some things that didn't quite go well for the Knights on offense in this game. And I know you probably started out talking about the defense. Defense got after it, didn't they? And I'm interested in your thoughts as I hop on a little bit late about Emory Jones. This was one going into this game that if he had a stellar performance, it might mean UCF loses the game. And if he struggles, do you still want this guy? And what does it mean? We were going to have a whole offseason to dissect what it means, but it certainly was interesting knowing that he plans to enter the transfer portal, and this was a bit of a showcase game for himself.
No question. And I thought UCF did a heck of a job. How many times have we talked about the dual threat quarterback killing UCF defensively? Malik Cunningham, obviously the most recent. And Emory had some runs, but in particular in the second half, they kind of took that away from him and made him a thrower. If you look at the stats in the second half only, UCF outscored Florida 20-7, outgained Florida 296-143. You had UCF, they're 7 of 12 for Mikey Keene in the second half, whereas Emory Jones, you mentioned 5 of 15 for 83 yards. He couldn't beat him with the passing game, and Florida was held to 60 yards on the ground, while UCF had 196 in the second half. We were talking about throughout, and I was on many radio shows, the line of scrimmage. That's always a big topic when you're playing an SEC team. Can you match up with them in the trenches? And I think what we saw here, Trace, is UCF, as the game went on, they wore down Florida, and in the second half, they won the battle in the trenches, and Florida had no answers for that. And I think that speaks volumes. And I think defensively, Travis Williams, the growth of this defense from the beginning of the year to now, remember, there's a good chance this team will return 8 to 9 starters defensively. And I'm not including guys like, Kalia Davis and, that's out with an injury. If he comes back, you could have 9 starters potentially back on defense in year 2 of Travis Williams. I think this defense has a chance to be the best defense in the American Conference next season when you consider all the losses that Cincinnati will lose personnel-wise with Luke Fickell. They'll have a lot of young talent, very talented players, but young. I think UCF, their identity here, I think it's more balanced than it ever was under Josh Heupel.
Second half T-Will trumps second half Randy? Is that what you're suggesting, Elo? Remember, though, this was a 3-3 team, right? And Coach Malzahn said, we're going to hit the reset button. You know the number that he's talked about, 27 players that were not playing in this game, notably Jalen Robinson Flash not in this game. But good to see him at the end of the game, part of that, they're calling it Gatorade, but it's Powerade, by the way, that they dumped on Coach Malzahn. It was Powerade, or at least was a Powerade bucket. It was good to see him a part of that celebration. But 27 guys, we know all of the injuries. My, how different this team looks in this win over Florida than it did opening night, that Thursday night, the weather-delayed game against Boise State. How many different players are not a part of the mix in this game, in this win? A great performance for the Knights. They gutted it out defensively. They did what they needed to do. You question some of Florida's play calling and decision making. They might have been better to continue to run the ball They seem to be a little bit effective with that, at least in the first half. But credit to T-Will. He wrung as much out of this group as he could this season.
Brian Murphy, you brought out Murph out of the hibernation here. No non-New Year's Six games are generally meaningless, but because of this matchup, there's only 4 words to describe this win. It just means more, Trace. Just means more.
Yeah, Gator fans can make those excuses, but the audience, whatever the audience may be, I'm not sure what your prediction was for the audience if this was a 1 million+ viewership night going up against the NFL late in the season with the playoffs on the line. But I think for the non-SEC, non-Gator fans, they know the brand name. You've been talking about this for years, and it's never been more true than it is now. It really is about brands, right? We see it in every sport. And we know what the Florida brand means. It may be a bit tarnished, and it certainly wasn't the sort of season that they need. But there was a graphic that was shown early on in the game where they showed the recruiting rankings, and they had UCF and they had Florida was 67th or whatever they were, and Miami was in there. For a college football fan, that's not what they expect of a Florida Gators program. Billy Napier's got his work cut out for him.
Big time. And so does Mike Norvell at Florida State as well. I think Gus can recruit. He's a proven recruiter. I think Mario Cristobal is actually going to do good things at Miami. I think Florida State have got their hands full. And I think there's something about Gus, Trace. If you notice that with the media, the national media, they love Gus. How much
they do like him?
They like him a lot. And there's a presence there that he has that, quite frankly, with respect to the previous UCF coaches, I don't think they ever had that with the national media like Gus does. For whatever, and he knows.
Well, certainly not Josh Heupel.
No.
Certainly Josh Heupel didn't have that relationship with the national pundits. So, yeah, and when the recruits, the new Knights that we've been talking to on the Sons of UCF Live have talked about the genuineness, the sincerity. We had on Wednesday's show, preferred walk-on kicker Colton Boomer, and he talked about the faith that he has and that he saw and heard from Gus Malzahn. It is a different experience being in that media scrum and interviewing him. There is a genuineness that comes out in him, and he is a proven recruiter. And I think Auburn fans are reminded about how they won some close games with him. And, that's something also, by the way, back to Mikey Keene and the stretch run, UCF won close games. I'd like you to think and ponder, what would the record be? They finished 9-4, 8-4 in the regular season. What would they have done under Josh Heupel under similar circumstances? I don't see them winning 9 games.
I don't think so either. I don't think so. I think they would have struggled. I don't know if he would have adapted like Gus did. I don't think the defense would have been as improved. I think there's a more balance on this football team. And I really do believe that. And I think this team's going to, if Bowser comes back next year, they're going to have a strong running game. I think they'll have a really good defense. Obviously, the question that's going to be the most talked about question throughout the offseason in the spring is the quarterback position, obviously, which we'll have plenty of time to get into because between now and, say, August. Matt J chimes in with a comment. Also reliving seeing Flash dumping the Gatorade cooler over Gus's head. Was hearing some rumors of tensions, maybe just injury preventing him from playing. Hard to say, Gus. But
I would say Gus Malzahn's body language in his 6-second response to the question about his Robinson's status going into this game, the body language wasn't good, and it was different than when he had previously spoken about Dylan Gabriel or Isaiah Bowser or any number of Knights that were injured this season. It was a different body language, but it was good to see. And, these are college students. They are fickle. And it's, this managing your roster has never meant more than it does now in college football. Knights inked 15. They say they have 10 slots available. How many of those players come back, with a COVID year? Do you see a Sam Jackson return on the offensive line? Cole Schneider has already indicated he's most likely not coming back. Who comes back? Does Isaiah Bowser feel that he needs to prove more? You mentioned possibility of how the Knights would look defensively going into 2022. We know Cincinnati loses a lot of key pieces to its team. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We got to enjoy this victory, but perhaps the Knights go in as a favorite to win the AAC in 2022 if things go right on the transfer portal and some of the returnees. But I think there's going to be some lingering questions at quarterback.
Some defensive stats to bring up. Tatum Bethune, who's a guy that Trey Neal told me and is in my article, my Q&A with him on blackandgoldbanneret.com leading up to the game as far as a key guy for the defensive side of the ball to be successful is Tatum Bethune. 7 total tackles, 6 solos. He was all over the field, as was Devon Wilson. 7 total tackles, 5 solos. Quadric Bullock had 5 total tackles, 3 solos, had a pass breakup. Devontae Brown, I thought, played well. 4 solo tackles, a tackle for loss, 3 breakup passes for him. UCF got some sacks. Cam Good got a sack. Baptiste got a sack. Just your what defensive individuals have stood out to you this year? Because Big Cat gets a lot of the attention, and rightfully so, is all conference. But guys like Bethune and other guys really stepped up all over the field. When, remember, the beginning of the year, it looked like they were tentative. They weren't sure what they needed to do. They missed some tackles. Didn't see much of that anymore in the second half of the year.
No, especially there wasn't the issue. I mean, we bantered back and forth all game long. How many times did we say missed tackles? We weren't really saying it, right? You mentioned guys that stood out, Tatum Bethune. I'd say Quadric Bullard as well as a name that stood out for me over the course of the second half of the season. Big Cat is a disruptive force. You're going to see him at the East-West Shrine Bowl, right? Hula Bowl as well, isn't he? He's accepted an invitation to that. He's disruptive, but he's a proven SEC talent. Make some mistakes, but you've got to really look at how you're going to cover him. I know you're busy managing this show, so you're not paying attention to what Andrew Glukov is saying at the post-game press conference. Of course, everything delayed as a result of the on-field trophy celebration. He quoting Coach Malzahn, "We're fixing to recruit. They're going to use this. This place is a gold mine." Andrew quotes Gus Malzahn as saying, this is a big springboard for UCF.
Well, I mentioned this on the podcast last week when we went over the signing class. You could tell with Gus, Trace, that he loves recruiting, that he has a passion for it, that it's not just lip service. You were very openly critical of Josh Heupel in the last regime about the recruiting side. And honestly, when, there was a lot of lip service, there wasn't a lot of passion, and every personality is different. I get that. But I feel like Gus is a natural recruiter, maybe the best recruiter UCF has ever had at the head coach. George O'Leary was more of a developer than a recruiter. There were certain areas he avoided. Scott Frost, quite frankly, wasn't here long enough to judge if he was a great recruiter. How much of it was he was a good recruiter? How much of it was that he was the opposite of George O'Leary? And I think Heupel, we've seen here that his recruits were not anything to write home about. I think Gus is the best recruiter UCF's ever had, and he has experience recruiting at a Power 5 level, which I think is one of the reasons why, many reasons, I think Terry Mohajir thought of him to be the right guy for this job now, especially going to the Big 12.
Well, and remember, with Auburn recruiting far beyond Alabama, he's got a lot of relationships. He likes to talk about that as starting out as a high school coach, that he likes this, as you said. And I was surprised when it was said that of the 15 recruits announced last week on signing day, early signing day, 4 from Central Florida, a couple out of Seminole High and Sanford, 4, and that it was a program high. And you can't be a UCF and not be able to put that, as they say, that fence around Central Florida, and majority of these guys came from Florida. Caden Kittler out of Texas, a couple out of Georgia, most of them from Florida. You can successfully recruit in Florida. It does make you wonder why University of Florida has struggled with doing so. And you've heard repeatedly, Dan Mullen just wasn't his thing. Under previous coach, when he was an assistant coach, they didn't send him out on the recruiting trail. You need somebody like that. But you also said something, you talked about Scott Frost wasn't here very long. Josh Heupel wasn't here very long. Boy, continuity is so important now going into the Big 12 and having those relationships. When you hear high school coaches say that they didn't really know Josh Heupel and his staff, that they didn't meet them, that they didn't see them, that's not something that you heard this go around. They were in a lot of places developing a lot of relationships. And, when they lose out on a guy that commits to Alabama, remember with this transfer portal, that doesn't mean that guy's going to work out at Alabama, right? And when you have those relationships and you're treating possible recruits and their families with respect, that's remembered down the line. And there are going to be a lot of guys that want to play for Gus Malzahn, even if they didn't commit last week or down the line when the official signing day, the regular signing day comes in February. They're going to remember Gus Malzahn the way he and his coaching staff treated them. And I think the continuity going into the Big 12, and it's something you and I have talked about with all sports, when some of Night Nation is itchy and wants to put a coach on the hot seat, this is a big time. There's going to require a big step up in recruiting. It doesn't matter the sport to compete with the Big 12 across all sports. Continuity is so important for football. There's just been so much disruption, so much coaching change and turnover, and that UCF has been able to win as many games over this 4 or 5 year stretch of time with that disruption. Imagine if they had a coach that was here for a long time in Gus Malzahn.
I think we have that now. And Amy Bachman put it best. What a ride this season has been. It's been great to be a UCF Knight. I think a lot of people are going to be sharing that tonight, including yourself, Trace. I know you're with family, so I'm going to let you go and spend time with the family. You got hours to play with, but your final thoughts as you leave us here on this game and what this means moving forward in this season for UCF.
How sweet it is to celebrate the victory over the Florida Gators. 9-4 season, very disruptive season with injuries, even to head coach Gus Malzahn. The drama that surrounded Dylan Gabriel. The way this ended is certainly not the way UCF and Knight Nation thought it was going to be ending when the season began. But it ends on a positive note. And I know we can debate how important bowl games are, and there are a heck of a lot of them. -1, by the way. Hawaii Bowl canceled, host Hawaii out. Memphis already on the ground in Honolulu, not going to be playing in that game. They should just stay and enjoy themselves.
Rough, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, rough, tough spot, yeah.
But it ends on a positive. You carry that in, the momentum of that. A lot of questions. Your show, Sons of UCF Pod, Sons of UCF Live, we're going to have 8 months to debate all of this, right, and talk about it. 2021 ends on a positive note, despite all of the injuries, all of the question marks, all of the challenges at depth. Gus Malzahn piloted this to 9 wins, and most importantly, not just a Gasparilla Bowl win over a Marshall, but a Gasparilla Bowl win over the University of Florida Gators, who've won national championships before. There's bragging rights here, but they also caught the eye of some high school kids that realized this is a program heading to the Big 12. And this was an important win for UCF in that regard. Sweet victory for Knight Nation. A lot of folks are going to be celebrating long into the night and into the morning in Tampa and all across the country. Knight Nation enjoying this one.
All right, Trace, tell the audience where they can find you on Twitter. And, of course, Sons of UCF Live as well. You'll be on Wednesday night, I know, this week because the Michigan game next week, got a big game there. But usually you're on Thursday nights hosting 8 o'clock. Jerry Seinfeld will be proud.
Yes, Sons of UCF typically, Sons of UCF Live typically streams from 8 to 9 on Thursdays on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll be on Wednesday. We'll be talking about men's basketball with a win over North Alabama last night, getting ready for Michigan, another high anticipation game, opportunity for the Knights basketball team to make a name for itself. We'll be recapping this bowl game and start to talk about these questions that go into 2022. You can find me at SignPez. You can find the Sons of UCF Pod wherever you get your downloadable content. Thank you for your support of the Sons of UCF Live, Eric, and the Banneret, and I appreciate all you guys do, and especially here with Night Shift. And thanks for having me for a few moments. Thanks,
Trace. Happy holidays, and enjoy with the family, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Happy holidays.
Ladies and gentlemen, Trace joining us here on Night Shift here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to bring back Bryson in.
Hey.
We bring it. This is Night Shift here, of course, all over on Twitter, on Facebook. And we got another special guest. Are we gonna bring him on here? Is he excited? He's got it. Oh, he's back. Look at this.
Hey!
I don't know the last time he was on Night Shift, but here he is.
It's been a while.
Jeffrey Sharon. How you feeling?
Oh God, what a night. You know, I was obviously, heartbroken that I couldn't be there. You know, considering that, I'm still recovering from the operation that I had, but, what a night, man. I for some of us old hats who've been around the block since the D1 independent days, there are probably a few folks like me who are, in a real honest moment, like maybe we never thought we'd see the day when UCF would beat the mighty Florida Gators. And my God, it happened. It happened tonight. And the way that it happened was so satisfying in that second half to have, to physically manhandle that team up and down the field, as UCF did in the second half, was just so satisfying to watch. So satisfying to watch. Wow. Everything you would have ever wanted. It was fantastic.
Speaking of hats, how do you like the UCF Santa hat?
I will. It's in the rotation. It's in the rotation, Bryson. Well done.
So by the way, so I've been looking on Twitter while Eric was talking with Trace, and I figured I actually wanted to go ahead and ask you about this because you talk about how Florida manhandled. I do agree with that with the second half, but I've been looking around and I've seen this, and I think that it certainly does bar bringing up. I think is congrats UCF, but quite honestly, you just beat perhaps the weakest, mistake, and penalty-prone version of the Florida Gators in the last.
I don't care.
When you look
I don't care. I don't care.
Florida had 8 for 8.
I don't care.
And UCF had 4 for 42. When you look at just penalties,
I don't care. I don't care. We beat those guys. We beat those guys. We played them on the field. We beat those guys.
Yeah, I'm not arguing
that's
that.
how this. That's how this works.
Well, and look at the video. Jason Beatty, our friend from the Senate, posted. He was right. By the way, what a gutsy
He's
guy.
right, man. He's at the epicenter of that. Holy smokes!
Well,
be careful there, buddy. Come on now, but
no. Hey, listen. And there you see Terry Mohajir in there trying to wave everybody out. But listen, don't tell me that this game didn't mean anything.
There you go. There you go. You're not.
Do not look right there.
Yeah.
Do not tell me this game didn't mean something to both of these teams. All right. And we saw it. And we saw it from the jawing during the game, too, by the way.
There was plenty ejected for throwing a punch.
Right. So, it's this thing meant something to both teams. And I think, and we were talking about this before the game, like it meant plenty to the Florida players, too, because, some of them are fighting for jobs. Yeah, Emory Jones was auditioning for his next stop, and we can talk about whether or not it was a good audition or not. But now it's very similar to what we see in the NFL, where you see teams that are kind of playing out the string. You're like, oh, they're kind of tanking. Most of those guys on that roster, they're playing for their jobs. They're playing for their careers. So you can't tell me this game didn't mean something to these guys.
I want to ask you, Jeff. I've said this throughout the show, and I'll bring it up again. Ryan O'Keefe, when I think of his performance, Brandon Marshall, Hawaii Bowl, Shaquem Griffin, Peach Bowl. You were there at the Peach Bowl.
Yep.
Blake Bortles, Fiesta Bowl. Those are the standout bowl games. Obviously there's a lot of regular season, but this is a memorable performance for Ryan O'Keefe on so many levels, not just on the field. This is a game that UCF fans will always remember of Ryan O'Keefe fondly for this game. But not only that, in my opinion, the moment of the season, maybe the moment of 2021 as we come to the end of the year. Not when he scores the touchdown, he gives the peace sign to number 2 in honor of Otis. Man, if you didn't have an emotional moment there, that showed the brotherhood, the connection as a football player, as an alum. I mean, that's the moment I'll never forget from this game. Years from now, I will always remember that moment, right?
I mean, it was for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was a huge play, right? It was as far as the strategy of the game, it was the perfect time to take that shot when they did. And Mikey Keene, God bless him. He's been as good as he's been at times. We could see tonight, his limitations, right? They were pretty clear. As I'm looking, I want to look at Mikey's stats here real quick, just because he does this. I mean, listen, 14 to 22, 144 with the touchdown. He was sacked twice.
Protected the football.
Yes.
Football.
Did his listen? We talk about game management. This was a clinic in game management. Did not give up a turnover. And
what he did? You know what he did? He did a Kyle Israel.
Last 6 games. 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. Right? Did what he had to do. But the shot that he took, aside, that 54-yard touchdown, take that out. That's 90 passing yards for Mikey Keene. But, to Ryan, but when he hit that play to Ryan, it opened the game up. It was the one shot that UCF needed to hit. And we had a few shots. Remember on the flea flicker, he overthrew Ryan. He was wide open, missed him. Parker Navarro I was joking on Twitter that he got Michael Colubiali'd on that one running play where the turf monster just jumped up and grabbed him.
UCF's newest meme. I was on Twitter and I saw a meme of that already.
But Wow. Ryan will keep making that play. It was kind of it. What it did was, obviously UCF had the momentum at that point, but what it did was it really, I thought for Florida, it really shell shocked them. It really shell shocked them because they knew that, Florida in the course of this game, they knew that they had to, that UCF's, offense was limited. But still we were able to run the ball effectively, especially in the second half, and we'll pull up the second half stats in a second. But you got to hit that big play. Really, I thought shell shocked their defense because all of a sudden, what was the score at that point, Eric? I forget.
That put him up to, I believe, 26-17.
Yeah, that made it a two possession game. That made it a 2-possession game, and given how we were talking about how points were coming at a premium. You could tell that their defense was like, "Oh my gosh, now we're in trouble," because our offense is not hitting right now, and they just scored a quick 7 on us, and we're down 2 scores. We're in trouble. So I thought that was.
But what's
huge.
Amazing about that? I'm going to give credit to our buddy Murph, who said it to us in the group chat, and it really struck with me. UCF had 26 points up until the end there, which was Otis's number, coming to UCF.
When he first came here, yeah.
And they won by 2 scores. 2. I mean, Jeff, you worked in television for a long time. Come on, that's an amazing script. However you want to, whatever you want to believe in, man.
See, I'm not the biggest. Stuff. I am not the biggest fan of numerology. I know that you are, but I look at it and I'm like, and Gus said after the game, and Andrew Kulikoff tweeted it out. He said that, it was clear that the players, they wanted to win this game for Otis, that he was the real, motivating factor behind this. And it's obvious. And it was obvious that that's what happened. It was to see the players kind of rally around his memory was just, remarkable to see. And that's certainly the hallmark card moment, right? Is Ryan's touchdown. I mean,
it'll be remembered forever. That image will be remembered.
Yeah, that's the cover of the movie of the DVD.
Oh yeah. As far as on-field moments go, that's the moment of the year as far as on-field moments. I mean, I will probably say that the moment of 2021 is when UCF joined the Big 12, but I think this is a close second.
To me, it's the most memorable moment on the field. It reminds me a lot, ironically, Jeff, you were there at the 2018 championship game. What was the play that turned that game around?
Oh, it was Otis's touchdown catch.
Yeah.
To start the third quarter. That was the play that UCF needed, and he was there to deliver. It was amazing. And I'll tell you, the fans tonight, unbelievable. Showed out so well. Listen, and I was watching the game on ESPN at home. It looked to me like it was about 70-30 UCF.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. People give you some UCF fans the hard time and stuff. The thing is, though, man, they show up. Florida fans, when things don't go well, they tend to kind of back away a little bit. All right? They tend to back away. Mm-hmm. Florida State fans do show up, all right, even when things aren't good. Miami fans, well, they don't show up in general. UCF fans show up, and that's, to me, what's significant. By the way, Drew, you mentioned, just tweeted what Gus said about that play. Malzahn says when Florida's safety kept cheating up, they decided to go over the top. The result was a 54-yard touchdown pass, obviously keen to O'Keefe. That's the play there. Mm-hmm. And look at the second half stats. We mentioned it.
Yeah, this was the second half stats that we pulled up from the stat tracker that I tweeted out. And look at these numbers in the second half. And I was telling you this earlier too, Eric and Bryson. This is how a power team wins, is in the second half. All right. Not just outscoring them, but look at the total yards. Double in total yards. Ran the ball 31 times to Florida's 9. Had 196 rushing yards in the second half alone. Committed 1 penalty. It was a 15-yarder. Florida had 4 15-yard penalties in the second half. Look at the first downs, 13-6. 7 of the 13 were on the ground. 4 of 9 on third downs. Held Florida to 0 for 5 on third downs. almost double the total plays, more than double time of possession. That's a physical team right there that we saw win. I'll tell you, 9-4 bowl win, first ever win over Florida in program history. Gus Malzahn, man,
one of the best.
Unbelievable! What a job.
One of the best coaching jobs in the history of UCF football. It goes right up there with the 2017 Scott Frost year. Up there
I
with
think it has
O'Leary 05.
Think about when we were sitting.
Was good.
Yeah, think about when we were sitting here after the Louisville game.
Yeah,
when all looked lost. Dylan Gabriel's out for the season. Isaiah Bowser's out for God knows how long. Not to mention, I think 4 or 5 other guys in the starting lineup. Matt Lee got hurt in that game. A couple of key defensive guys were in that game. It looked like it was going to get bad in a hurry. To finish the season as they did, wow, what a job by Gus. What a job by the coaching staff. What a job by the players. They kept it together. And, the thing is, like, especially for the seniors, they get to, they win this game, and you get that I keep going back to that Bill Parcells quote after the Giants won the Super Bowl for the first time in '86. He says, "The rest of your life, no one can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did it. You beat Florida."
And they did it, and I think you're seeing the complementary football there, right? Like, I know the offense hasn't been ideal what people expect or used to the 40, 50-point games, but you're seeing the positives of this running game and not have to go fast every 5 seconds for a snap and being able to execute. You're helping your defense, and this defense.
That was key, especially especially in the first half. I thought, because the whole thing in the first half was, don't let the game get away from you. Florida's going to try and overwhelm you with their athleticism. But if you can keep the football, but if you could keep the football and just, you notice that I want to see if I can pull up the UCF's possessions here in a second. But
yeah, while you do that, by the way, Sarah Epix writes, it felt 60-40, but UCF was the more louder fan base. Now, he thinks it was 60-40 Florida. I think Sir Epic, you can confirm. I think you were there. You can verify that. But still, who knows what the number was. I thought it was more 50-50, 60-40. Either way, it was clear. UCF was definitely the more louder, more invested into the game.
Let me bring up the more of the stats here, because I want to show you guys this here. This is the drive. This is the official drive stats for UCF. And I'm going to try and zoom in out of here, but look at the time of possession that UCF was able to crank out here. This first three punt, not very good, right? Defense was out there on the field, and it looked like it was getting close to, like, the levee was going to break, right? But then 10 plays, 74 yards, 347 keeps the defense off the field, right? Allows them to rest. 9 plays, 49 yards, 408. All right. That's in the second quarter. And then the last 2 that didn't look really good. But all right. Even the missed field goal, that was a tough one, especially because Obarski, Obarski, by the way, good game for him tonight. 3 for 4. The only one he missed was that field goal from 51, and he had plenty of distance. He just kicked it straight from the right hash. Didn't give it enough hook. But then,
how confident are you in Obarski now?
Much more now. But there's still going to be a competition, which I think is what Gus wants, with Colton Boomer coming in next year. But here, look at these last 3 drives here. With 7:54 to play in the third quarter, UCF gets the ball, 12 plays, 55 yards, 4 minutes and 50 seconds. All right, they get the one touchdown play. The 1-play touchdown drive, and then 10 plays. I thought even this drive was actually big. That started that was at the end of the third quarter and went into the fourth quarter, where UCF ran 10 plays, 41 yards, and 446. Even though they punted, they flipped the field and ran another 5 minutes off the clock. So UF gets the ball back with what? 7, or let's see. No, that must have been about, here's where they got it back. They got it back fourth quarter, 10-16 to go, down 2 scores. And six plays, 53 yards, missed the field goal. That was it. That was the game. right there for them. And then that final drive that ended off of that missed field goal where UCF got the ball with 7:57 left, and then ran another 5 minutes off the clock, 9 plays, 57 yards. And this was an absolute coaching clinic by Gus Malzahn.
Guy can
Absolute
coach.
coaching clinic.
Guy can coach, right? I think he's proven that, right?
Listen, future UCF teams are going to put up more points than this. They're going to be more offensively explosive, but they're not going to be explosive in the way that we've been used to the past 5 years. They're not going to put 58 points a game up on everybody here for, by throwing for 400, 500 yards. All right. They're going to put up those points in a really methodical way that all of a sudden you look up in the second half and they put 42 on the board, and they've run for 300 yards and they've thrown for 300 yards. That's what it's going to be. It's not going to be as explosive in the way that we're used to seeing it. It's going to be like a wave that keeps, or like a tsunami that keeps building and building and building, and then all of a sudden it overwhelms you. That's how these teams. That's how these teams are going to win.
It's going to be a more balanced football team across the board, both sides of the ball.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I wanted to ask you this because you talked about Mikey Keene earlier, and I saw a tweet that at JP Gilbert made earlier where he said, I might have made some jokes about Mikey Keene, but in 1 year, he's got more big W's than the sock salesman had in 3.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
Well, look, I mean, I will say
it's not fair.
It's a clever line, though. It's pretty clever.
Mikey Keene, true freshman, 4 true freshmen. I think he did fairly well, and I think that as the game went on, because Mikey Keene is not a playmaker, yet.
But you know what? I'm gonna let me.
I saw some flashes in him. I saw a couple of flashes in him of some pretty solid plays.
Here, the 54-yard. Well, you're getting a little choppy there, Bryson.
To that pass was running away from the defender to get to Alec Holler for the first down. I mean, there were some solid plays, and I feel like that. Like, I know they're going to go to they will go for the transfer portal, and I completely get that. We did that with Golson, but then Dylan Gabriel came.
Wimbush,
right? Different Notre Dame quarterback. But the point is that I think that I am if Mikey Keene is the choice that Gus wants to make a quarterback going forward, I am more willing to trust him in that choice because I think that he's shown us there is room to develop from him, and I think that I could see improvement from him, especially with the full off season with the starters.
Well, listen. It's been pretty clear to me from this, and there's nothing against Mikey. You can't take the wins away from him. He finishes the season, I think, with 7 wins?
Well, and I'll say this too. He's done something that no UCF quarterback has ever done.
He's beaten Florida. Yep.
And he's beaten South Florida too, by the way. That's right. 2 good. Those are 2 good wins. I think any UCF in any sport would enjoy.
But let's be real though. He was very much a game manager this season, and is the question that you have is this is the question that I always have. All right, you've got the ball on your own 20, down 5 with 2 minutes and 2 timeouts. Do you trust that player with the football? Can he win you the game? I don't think he's there yet. Now, that's not to say that he can't get there yet.
Right. Was Mackenzie Milton at that point in his freshman year? Was any freshman?
He wasn't. He wasn't. Justin Holman wasn't. Blake Bortles wasn't his first year. That's not to say that he can't get there, but he's got a lot of work to do. Now, if you're Mikey Keene, all right, here's what I'm doing. I am the first guy into that weight room every day, and I'm the last guy out. When Tommy Castellanos or whoever who comes in the transfer portal shows up, that every time that guy walks into the facility, he's going to see me there working first. All right. And I'm going to make the coaching staff tell me you're not the guy. All right.
Right.
That's how I would treat it if I was him. And God bless him. We're going to see. This is the part 99% of the fans don't see. This game was won in the spring and in the summer, right? the workouts, the conditioning, the building up to this point. All right. 2017 season was won in the spring with Mackenzie Milton working with the receivers, working with the offensive player, working with the offensive line, developing the chemistry that they had. So what's Mikey going to do? What's he going to do this spring? Is he going to be the guy who turns his weaknesses into strengths? We saw a few of those weaknesses on display where, he doesn't throw a really sharp football. The further downfield he goes, the more inaccurate he is. When they took the shot to Ryan on the touchdown pass, it was because the safety was cheating up. If the safety wasn't cheating up, that pass gets broken up because he underthrew Ryan a little bit. Ryan had to come inside to get that ball and slow down a little bit. There was nobody in the middle of the field, so he was able to do that. But, you got to be able to make the throws, and you got to be able to make the throws from the pocket. He's not there yet, but we have a long off season ahead of us. We have spring practice. We have summer practice coming. What does he do? All right. We're going to find out. We're going to find out who the next guy is soon enough. A lot of people are going to claim to know. We don't know.
Well, whoever the quarterback is will benefit from having Isaiah Bowser hopefully back because Jeff,
we don't know if he will. I think he said post game he's not 100% sure if he's coming back just yet.
What a difference. What do you make though? What a story. They're a different team with him in the backfield. With all due respect to the other backs, he's a difference maker. I don't think they win this game if he doesn't make it back from injury.
Oh no, there's no question. He was so huge tonight, and I want to see if I can pull up his numbers for the game here too. But
I have him, Jeff. 35 rushing attempts, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. His longest was 36, but his average was just 4.4 yards per carry.
He's a meat grinder, and when he went down, you got to remember, he wasn't even supposed to be, he wasn't even really supposed to be the actual starting back this year. It's supposed to be RJ Harvey, and Isaiah was put into that position. And what makes Isaiah so good is, not just his size, but his vision. And we talked about this. Eric and I talked about this on the podcast a while back with Rini and Golia. The thing that he was able to do was, he has such good vision, and that for me was the key. Was he able to break runs every time? No, but he has that big frame where he's able to take a pounding, all right, chew up that clock, and in addition to that, every once in a while he's going to break one out. And we saw that earlier today. And having him in there, it's kind of like having a big man in basketball kind of step out and make a jumper. It opens up the lane for your smaller guys to get into the lane. And so he was able to open it up for Ryan O'Keefe, to rush for 110 yards net. He was able to open it up for, on when Johnny Richardson had that 38-yard carry. So you kind of need that guy. So I hope he's able to come back for one more year. If not, I think UCF does have a couple guys in the pipeline that can fill that role. The question is, do they develop the vision that he has? We know about the size. Isaiah is so good at vision. And you can go back and watch every carry that he has. He's able to find holes where they aren't. And do what coaches call get skinny, where he can find a small hole, get positive yardage, and keep the chains moving. And it's those little things that make a tremendous difference.
Oh yeah, I mean, and JP even said this too. UCF bullying Florida with a power running game. What a time! And I think it really speaks to how crucial Isaiah Bowser is on this team. I've talked about this with different people, you guys included, I think, that this team is a different team without Isaiah Bowser on it. And you kind of hit it right on the head, where he's like the big man doing the jumper, making room for the smaller guys. Because in my opinion, without Isaiah Bowser,
he's like a rim protector.
He's a playmaker. And Mikey Keene is not a playmaker. He's a game manager. Isaiah Bowser, having him there to be that big man doing the jumper, being that bruiser back to establish the running game, allows Mikey Keene to be that game manager without the pressure of being a playmaker, because that's more on Isaiah Bowser. Plus, I mean, most all the respect goes to Ryan O'Keefe and Johnny Richardson, but they're the speedy guys. You can't get the same thing from them that you can get from Isaiah Bowser. And I just think there were two different UCF teams this season, at least post Dylan this season. There was UCF with Isaiah Bowser and UCF without Isaiah Bowser. And UCF without Isaiah Bowser had to scrape by in order to get some offensive production. We had to really lean on the defense more. UCF with Isaiah Bowser, though, has been much more confident offensively and much more productive offensively.
He's got good vision too, watching with the holes, knowing to hit the holes, when to cut back. He's got some Latavius Murray in him, don't you, Jeff? Like, that's, to me, the type of back there. Of course, Tavius was big in the win against Georgia in the Liberty Bowl about a decade ago. He's got that it factor there, man. He broke that run in the first play. What was it? The first play of the third quarter? Mm-hmm. Broke to the outside. He just has a vision that I don't think any other back in the roster has at UCF, and he has that physical ability to be just a bruiser. Like, he gets tackled, but he can give you that extra yard or two, like he did on one of the possessions where he got the first down after contact. You know what it's also he's really good at is protecting the football. And that's the part that I liked the most is, because Florida's defense, they were trying to rip it out. And every time he got the ball, he's hanging on that thing with two hands, and he was taking shots today, man. Listen, let's tip our hat to Florida. Like, that's a real defense. That's a real defense UCF played today, because we saw the speed, we saw the power that they have. I was impressed with the fact that they had guys who were being blocked, reaching over, grabbing Isaiah Bowser with one hand and bringing him to the ground. All right. That's, this, when people talk about, SEC physicality, you can't teach that, but you can beat it in a one-game situation. No doubt. Any team can get beaten in a one-game situation. We saw that, in the Peach Bowl, we saw that today. And I think what we're going to start to see now is, as UCF transitions into the Big 12, and the cachet that comes with that, is you're going to see UCF recruiting more guys like that, that have that power conference level size and strength and power. And, that's the kind of thing, you can make up for some mental mistakes with that, right? Your margin of error is greater. One of the things that, when I was working in the video department, that we heard George O'Leary say was, it's not about the X's and the O's, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. I hear all the time, we hear how many times do we hear about, people complaining about play calling, right? Well, great athletes, are always going to overcome, the whole play calling thing. It's not about play calling. It's about recruiting. And listen, and did you see the smile on Gus's face in the post-game interview, Eric? He had that cake-eating grin on his face when he was talking about, we're going to recruit. I'm like, okay, here we go. He loves recruiting, man. He loves recruiting.
Well, I mean, he was people forget, Gus was a high school football coach and a teacher. And he loves that. He loves that part of the game.
And I don't think UCF's ever had that have ever had a head coach in that direction, at least in the Division I era.
He's the most personable.
Not in the Division I era.
Right. Like, George was he did not like recruiting. He was more of a developer. His staff developed guys in a couple of years.
Right.
Scott wasn't here long enough, and I don't think Scott enjoyed recruiting. No, it was a necessary evil. He wasn't here long enough to know if he would have been a great recruiter here or not.
Mike Kruzak was an underrated recruiter, but he was limited by what he could recruit given where UCF was.
Yeah,
as a Division I independent. And he had to develop players along the line. But listen, you don't find a guy like Brandon Marshall at Lake Howell High School and get him over here unless you're a heck of a recruiter, right? So,
fair.
But again, he was limited by where UCF was in the pipeline. Now that ceiling is gone. That glass ceiling got broken.
By the way, tweets. Sam Jackson has tweeted. Our good offensive lineman said, "Can't wait to hear the excuses."
I don't care.
Nope.
I don't. I know the players don't care. The coaches don't care. I don't care. We beat you.
Our buddy Jeremy Taché of Bally's tweeting, UCF football is now one of 7 teams in FBS with 50 wins over the last 5 seasons, joining Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Georgia, Oklahoma.
Proof's in the pudding. What can you say?
I mean, I
9 wins in every year that wasn't a COVID season.
I know a lot of fans like me maybe have hopped on the bandwagon after the 2017 season and what happened there. But I have to imagine, like, and I'll bring this word up again and again, I think, because of this season. I can't, like, is this a feeling of catharsis for people like you, Jeff and Eric, who have been with this program for so long and to see it grow up until this point?
I don't know if this feels like an ending. You know, catharsis to me seems like an ending. This feels more to me like a this feels much more like a beginning of something to me. I can't quite put my finger on it. I'll need a couple days to think about it, but it's
something had to have ended.
Well, I mean, I think it already ended. You know, when Dylan Gabriel went down, I think something ended, and I think it was that Frost, Heupel, air raid era where UCF broke out of the shell from George O'Leary. But now today something else flipped, something else changed, and it was, I think this was really UCF's coming out party as a true power program. Not just because it wasn't just winning the game, it was how they won the game. You know, with power football, that really was something. And by the way, I wanted to drop this tweet in here from Daniel Glass, DGYM14 on Twitter. He brings up a great point. The last time UCF played Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and Auburn, UCF beat him.
That's a heck of a statement. It really is.
Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia. UCF has won the most recent matchup against all 4 of those schools.
I mean, it's honestly amazing. Like, the reason why I put it like that, and maybe that was the wrong way to word it, is because I'll say this to everybody. When I first applied to colleges, I actually applied to just 2, UCF and Florida, and I got accepted to both of them. And beyond other factors, there was factors. One of the ones that I think is more romantic as far as that goes is that I wanted to be part of something that was on the rise, something that you can get on the ground floor and watch as you yourself and the bigger thing you're a part of rises with you. And seeing this UCF football program go from where it was when I first moved to Orlando, even in 2009, to now where they've beaten Florida, and of course all those other matchups you talked about. Like, I saw them beat Georgia, I saw them beat Auburn, and now I've seen them beat Florida. I mean, the level of growth and the level of just catapulting itself into the national spotlight and then maintaining that and defending it and becoming the program that it is. It's honestly amazing. It really is.
Tim Harris, coach, by the way, on the staff. Charge on. I tell you, can you imagine that bus ride, Jeff? What's that like? You've traveled with football teams. What is that bus ride going to be back with the players and the coaches? There?
It's a party. It's an absolute party. It's like, there's no better time than that because you're with your guys,
Christmas.
And
Christmas Eve now.
Yeah, it's a Merry Christmas, man. I would give anything to be like, I was usually working on something But when you're on the bus and the guys are driving back, and it's just what a party. What an absolute party.
I mean,
unbelievable.
Everybody sees your bus and they're all beeping their horns at you as they're driving back to Orlando too. It's like the best thing ever.
It's true. It's very true. All right, let's wrap this up because I want to watch the second half again, like many others.
Oh yes.
Bring up those numbers again.
Yeah, Jeffrey, you get the last word of the night before we wrap up this night shift. And first of all, thanks to everybody who's tuned in, not only tonight but all season long for football. We will do another night shift after the Michigan basketball game, but more on that down the road. But thanks to everybody who's tuned in all year on Night Shift Live after these football games. No matter, their first one of the year was like at 3 a.m. Against Boise State after that marathon. But just put it into final words, Jeff. You get final word of the night here. What this night meant and overall.
Just if you're a fan, if you're an alum like us, if you're a student right now.
Like me,
if you're, it's, man, we beat those freaking guys. We beat those guys. It is just so satisfying to beat them, and you can never take it away. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if they say, "Oh, we had a bad season." You know what? We still beat you. You still showed up on that field, and we won that game against you guys. And that's the part that that as a fan, I'm going to cherish. And I'm so saddened by the fact that I can't be there because I'm still recovering from what I'm recovering from. But man, to witness that tonight, I'll never forget it. This is up there with this one was up there with beating Georgia. This is up there with beating Auburn. This is up there with the first conference championship game against Tulsa. Just the incredible satisfaction of doing something that you've never done before, that you always thought you could if you ever got the chance, but you never really sure if you're ever going to get the chance. And then you get the chance, and you're like, oh man, I hope we don't screw this up. And we got our chance, and we seized it. And it was glorious. It was glorious. We're going to have no matter what happens this offseason, we will have this forever. Okay. This was the night we beat the Florida Gators, and we're going to play them hopefully, unless they duck us 3 more times.
2024, yeah. Make sure you're back by 2024.
Hey, and listen, and by the way, folks, come 2024, they're going to be ready for us. Okay, they're going to be
after they bring in a new head coach, after they get impatient.
After they bring
another head coach,
because they're hashtag too big to fail, as I always like to say, right? But yeah, this is our night. All right, so let's enjoy this one. It's going to last us a good 8 months. So let's enjoy it. Let's have a Merry Christmas and enjoy it. And I'm so thankful that for the players that never gave up on this. To the coaches, like I said, Amy Bachman-Clayett just said it right there. Shout out to the coaches and the team for riding the ship that almost sunk in the first half of the season, right after that Louisville game. She's 100% right. When a lot of us were losing faith, not all of us, but when some of us were losing faith, they kept it together. They found a way, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's an absolutely beautiful thing to watch. What a job by Gus. What a job by the coaching staff. What a job by the players. And it's great to be a UCF night. I said it's great to be a UCF night. It's great. I can't.
Not sure if we can. I don't know if we want you to sing.
I love it.
I don't know.
I'm not. No, I'm not going to sing. But But give me. I'll tell you. These nights come around they don't happen often, but when they do, it's great. I'm going to love this.
It's a great day to be a UCF night.
Couple quick thoughts. First of all, thoughts with Justin Shorter. Hope he's okay. That was a serious situation there at the end.
He took a pretty bad shot. Hoping he's all right. The reports on the field afterwards were that he was talking to the trainers. They didn't see if he was able to move, but yeah, we hope Justin's all right, and we wish him a very quick and safe recovery too.
Yes.
Yeah, let's hope he's okay. That's very, there's more to important stuff, and man, that's hope for the best for him. But hey, like I said, this was a fun night. Sports could be really good, and I think a lot of special things happened on this night that will certainly never be forgotten. It was a great night to be a UCF night all over the state of Florida. Jeff, tell the audience where they can find us.
All right, UCF Banneret _SBN, and I want to emphasize this for everybody listening. So Twitter is being mean to us, and they're not figuring out our social media situation. So our Twitter handle, and you see it right there on the screen right now, our new Twitter handle. If you followed us on the old handle, you have to follow us on the new handle. We didn't change the handle. We had to create a new one. So UCF Banneret _SBN is our new Twitter handle. And of course, you can follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com. But this is the one where you want to be. UCF Banneret _SBN. I'm at Jeff _Sharon. Eric's at Eric Lopez. Elo Bryson is at It's Bryson Turner. Thanks to Trace. I'm sorry, Trace, I didn't get the chance to talk to you here. I popped in right as you were popping out, but man, what a night! What a night, man! I hope this feeling never ends.
Same. We'll have more on this game on our next edition of the Black and Gold Banneret podcast. That'll be all over your favorite podcast feeds. Yep. And where you can listen
and
to
this. And Night Shift is going to be on the podcast feed as well. I'm going to get it up tomorrow morning.
Andrew Glukoff, who was at the stadium. Kyle Nash was at the stadium. Andrew is going to have a knee-jerk reactions on blackandgoldbanneret.com as he does after every UCF game. Look for that. Noah Goldberg took some great photos. How lucky are you, Jeff?
No, wow.
Oh, man. That photo of Ryan O'Keefe flashing the deuces, that's going in all.
Hey, I'm going to put this up somewhere. Right here, folks. This one's going hang this one in the Louvre, man. Wow, let me see. I'm trying to pull it. Yeah, here it is. I got to get this up so that you guys see this.
We're fortunate with two great photographers, Noah Goldberg and Derek Warden. Shout out.
Look at this. Like, that's
beautiful.
Wow. I mean, it's an
iconic photo. It's an iconic photo. It's up there with like the Derek Warden catch, the Temple that our friend Brandon Helwig shot.
JJ Warden.
JJ, what did I? Yeah, I don't know what I.
You said Derek Warden.
Who's
our other photographer?
I was pumping him up. I'm thinking of guys there, but yeah, JJ Warden, the catch against Temple.
That's up there with Shaquem in the Peach Bowl.
Yep. It's a great photo. Great job by everybody there. And like I said, the great guys at Tampa, they'll have the photos. They'll have the photo gallery of the photos there at the game.
Galleries.
Drew with the knee-jerk reactions. We'll have more on this game.
Statboy Drew on Twitter. The SOTG, that's Kyle Nash for the student of the game. Make sure you follow him up there. We got a lot of stuff coming for you tonight and into tomorrow. So it will be a Merry Christmas for us here on Black and Gold Banneret. And wow, what a night.
That is Jeff Sharon for Jeff. For Bryson Turner, who we're happy to report the family is still functional despite the battle lines there between the two programs. They're getting along. Thanks to Bryson for all the help behind the scenes on the show as well. Thanks to Trace for coming on the show. Trace Tryko, Sons of UCF Live. For Jeff, for Bryson, I'm Eric. Enjoy it. Final score, UCF 29, Florida 17. This has been Night Shift.